Alright, welcome back to Landshark's Garage. Just me and Jake and Dexter out here hanging out today for a while. Ready to put the 400 into Mrs. Landshark's 68 C-10. Come out here and notice that my trusty handy dandy 25-year-old floor jack that I use for transmissions had given out somewhere along the line. Transmission was sitting down, jack was as low as it could go. I don't think anything happened there, but I should have actually strapped it up or something. I should have never trusted the jack. Put the motor in here. The starter, it's got a small, one of the high torque starters, and it's got a straight across bolt pattern, where this 400's got an offset bolt pattern. There is no provision for that straight across pattern, so I'm gonna have to put the big old starter back on there. I'll take the gear reduction one, use it in something else. I will eventually get an offset pattern gear reduction starter for this, because I like the way they spin the motors over. This one's got a push-on wire for the start power on the solenoid, so I just kind of made a jumper wire for this temporary starter. The reason I'll probably put the small one on there is I'm gonna have to do some relieving right along here on this exhaust pipe. You can see it's already been smacked a few times, but it's that tight against the block, and it kind of interferes with the starter. So I'm gonna take the time and massage a little bit more dent in there before I try and, it's easier to do it here than it is laying underneath it when I run into a problem. So I probably have enough clearance there. If I remember right, we had a bigger starter on this before, but it just needed a little bit more work. So I'm going to do some fine tuning there with this exhaust fine tuning tool and some other stuff that I got, and then I'm going to swap them starters out so the other starters hang in there, and then we'll start working on the 400 itself, getting it ready for oil filter on it, making sure the push rod in the fuel pump is free. I can't put the fuel pump on it because of this motor mount that's got to go through here. You got to reach up underneath there, so you can't have the fuel pump on it, otherwise I'd put it on beforehand. Got a bunch of pretty stuff for the front of it, bunch of chrome shiny stuff to put on the fans and pulleys and whatnot because of the long water pump, short water pump thing we talked about in the last episode. So that all showed up, so we'll get to rocking here. Alright, so our starter, I have it bungee corded to the side there. Get that out of there. Can't get the tarp strap to give up. All else fails, cut it. Perfect. Get all tucked in, it's metric. I don't really think it did anything when the transmission jack quit holding, but it was kind of an uncomfortable feeling to walk in here and see that. Haven't been out here for a couple days waiting for parts. So anyway, you can kind of see here, right along here where I kind of had to dent that pipe a little bit for some starter clearance. So I'm just going to tap on it a few more times and see if I can make it just a little bit better. Yeah, hopefully that'll be enough. It was I know it fit pretty well when we had the big one in it before. Just a matter of maybe I can get a little bit more clearance this way. A lot easier than laying down there trying to do it with a motor and stuff in it. All right, put an oil filter on, put the motor mounts on, scraped off the exhaust manifold gasket area just because chased that idiot around out in the yard for a while. Like I said, this 400 and it's externally balanced, which means it's got a different flywheel than 350 does, so I gotta swap that out. Almost forgot about it. Won't be the first time. Trying to figure out how to adjust my chain and my cherry picker so the engine doesn't get this little turn in it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I never noticed it before. So flywheel, just like a 350, it's just, except it's got the balancing externally balanced. Otherwise, there's really no difference. They have the same flywheel or the same tooth count, as far as I know, because they take the same starter. Flywheel's all installed. Let's see how this goes. Gonna have to open the door. Gonna have to open the door. You hear Jake out here? He knows the camera's on. He loves being in the limelight. Come on, buddy. You weren't much help. How come you don't jump that one? Did you dig another hole? Dang it, Jake. I'm putting oil in it and kind of at a standstill until I get a hand from my favorite helper. I like to put this TB Zinc Plus additive in, especially on a motor that's been sitting for a while. It's got a lot of zinc in it. It's good for your camshaft and whatnot. You don't find a lot of zinc in oil like they used to. It's kind of like a break-in oil, but I try and use it on all my junk. That, or at least a Lucas oil stabilizer. How about a toolbox tour? Would anybody be interested in a toolbox tour sometime? I saw one on the internet the other day, and he did a tour of his toolbox, and it was 2 hours long. If you wanted a tool, I got two toolboxes that I use. Anybody be interested in a tour of a shop, of my shop? You know, an in-depth tour of where I hide everything? Let me know in the comments. That'd be cool. Be something I'd be willing to do. Coming up on winter, I'll probably reorganize the whole toolbox so Mrs. Landshark can't find anything again anyway. That's kind of a winter project that we have. We'll get this done. Hopefully we'll get her down into storage. My 49's already in storage. Get the 80 Camaro in here for the winter so we can start seeing what we got to do on that. Hopefully that we will be driving out the door come April if everything goes right, and then we can put that 3+3 back in as a summer project because it doesn't fit in the winter. It fits, you just can't walk around it. I want something I can walk around in case I want to do something else. This garage that we've been building hot rods in our whole life, I bet you our personal vehicles have been in here 3 times, like in the winter or in the summer. There's always something in this garage. We've never parked anything that we drive on a daily basis inside. But we always have fun working on the stuff we have in here. I got this going on over here. I don't know what this is. Fighting over the blanket, I think. Another blanket right behind them. They don't realize that. Everyone behind it has a cushion underneath it, but they both probably want this one. This is like all day, every day. You'd never know that old Dexter, the brown one there, is 13 years old. Well, you do know it. He knows it too. But Jake's made him more lively than he has been the past couple of years, that's for sure. Let's see if we can line her up. I'm going down. Oh. See that, boys and girls? Perfect. Hey, hand me one of them. Boltimas. Ah! Very delicate operation here.
Tiny garage problems.
We're so well versed in dealing in our garages that we're gonna take.
Hey, get out of that antifreeze tape.
We're gonna take this 350, put it on the engine stand so it's ready to go when we decide we get to do stuff. So here's the problem with the chain.
Whoops. Sorry.
See the problem with the chain? The hook on the chain needs to sit at 90 degrees to the engine, and it doesn't. So every time we put an engine on it, it does this.
Hey, you just need another link in it.
Nope.
Yep.
I was actually kind of hoping to get a really nice swivel hook to put on there, but she's right. All I gotta do is move it up a link and it'll turn 90 degrees. Damn, she's right again. Always saving money for the company. Well, honey, I know what's wrong with your damn motor. You ain't got no rocker arm right there. Hey everybody, welcome back to Land Shark's Garage. We're finally putting this 400 back together. Usually don't have this problem with these ram's horn manifolds. Usually they line up really nice. I don't know if it just the exhaust pipe got tweaked on it or something. The old drop down style, you used to always have to spread them. You had a special tool to spread them. But these usually go right in there. I mean they are, but they're not.
You said long and back?
The long one goes in front by the feel of it. I cleaned all these holes on these, so they should thread in there fairly nice. GM's exhaust manifold gaskets cut the hooks on them so you can just drop them down over your bolts.
Silver side out?
Silver side out, babe. You got one that I need. That long one goes in the back. I don't know why.
What? This one does?
Yeah, they just go like this, run that long thing out back.
Oh, I'll put it.
Yep.
Well, then that's the wrong side then. Right?
I guess it doesn't matter where it goes. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Do with that driver. I don't know. What was it? Is it a ground?
No, it's for the carburetor.
What'd you do with that?
Don't be saying, what's this?
What'd you do with that the driver you
We
had?
reserved that for the Tahoe. Oh my gosh. Just think if we could do this table thing.
Where is the little orange? No, you have the little.
The gun?
Yeah.
No, that was for putting that screw in the roof.
Oh, I was like, what did you do with it? So how do I do? Do I put this on there and then put a extension on it or something?
What?
Put it
Oh,
on?
on that, yeah. I didn't know that's what you were talking about.
It wasn't what I was talking about.
Okay.
You answered my question on the other thing.
Did you get it to start? Could be that. You know that bung that goes into was in the motor. They should be the same though. I mean,
Wait in. Okay, just start. No, you didn't answer my question. Do I put this on it and then put like an extension on it to turn it?
yep, I brought you the extension in the ratchet.
Okay.
It's a big part of the Tortuga Youth Festival that is going on all weekend.
Let's see, does it fit over it? First of all.
Tracy Lawrence is there as well. And a lot of other country stars like Whitmore, Michael Ray.
It did not. Did you have a different one?
Maybe I didn't use that.
So then what did you use? Did it have to be super tight?
Yeah.
Where are they at? Or did you use
I didn't use that, so we're not going to reuse
Oh,
it.
okay. 3.
Did that fit over it?
No, not. I couldn't get it to fit over it.
There's a fuel pump push rod that runs off the cam. Actually, it's a mechanical pump. You have to have that push rod pushed up. Some people use a hacksaw to hold it up. Some people put a bolt in here that's got a point on it that will hold that push rod, because if it's on the right stroke of the camshaft, it's down, and you have a tough time getting this eccentric in there to touch it. I think I'm on the right stroke because there's a lot of room there, and we're going to find out right now. Jake got his name because he looks like a Jake, and he just stuck. Dexter is named after Dexter Morgan, the serial killer in the series Dexter. Some days lately, since we got Jake, I think he is a serial killer because he's just grumpy all the time. Right, Dex? But I guess if you had a dog in your face 24 hours a day, it'd probably be the same way. Well, we're back at it about 24 hours later. Took a little break, did some family things. Bottom end all bolted back together. That starter we were talking about with the offset mount, got that mounted in there. It's pretty close to the exhaust, not touching, but it's really close. So we're going to end up getting a smaller starter to fix that, but this will work for now. Some of the things we've ran into since the last time we were out here messing around is this Edelbrock intake is a spread bore intake. Holley carburetors, majority of them are square bore carburetors, so they got 4 of the same size holes on the bottom. This is kind of set up for a quadrajet, so we're gonna have to put an adapter on there. I picked up an Edelbrock adapter, which goes from the square bore to the spread bore. Not an ideal thing. Be nice to have a square bore intake on here, but I'm not going to go through and mess around with that. This engine had an Edelbrock on it before. Another thing is the new alternator mount goes in here, so we had to cut in a fuel filter before the pump, which is a good idea anyway, so that we can just run hose up to the carburetor once we get that mounted. The alternator mount that I got, pretty straightforward, no instructions in it, but it was fairly easy to figure out where that goes. The power steering one, on the other hand, absolutely should have came with instructions. We spent a good hour or two figuring out how this has to mount. We took the power steering pump off. This mounts off the bottom of the water pump. This mounts to the water pump bolt, so we'll do that when we put it in. You'll see how this is all going to go together. But this pile of garbage is made by a company called DeHoot Performance, something like that. Bought it off of internet. No instructions whatsoever. Colossal waste of time. If someone was doing this in a shop, they'd be furious on how much time it took labor-wise to figure this mount out. Got this shiny pulley that's got to go on the front of here, shiny pulley that's got to go on the alternator. So we're just going to get back after it. Hopefully we can have this thing running this afternoon. As I said before, bottom stuff's all buttoned up. It's just a matter of putting everything back on here, getting some fluid in it, and putting fire to it, and hoping everything takes off the way that we want it to. So we're going to get the carburetor mounted. Told you I got this adapter kit. Go from the square bore to the spread bore. We're having lunch. We're looking back through all the old photos of when we used to circle track race. We did that for 6, 7, 8 years maybe. Kind of fun. What'd you say? 8 years, Mrs. Landshark says. It was kind of fun looking at it, so I think we're going to put a montage together so you folks can look at it. All the different cars that we had and the nice G-bodies we destroyed and the motors we destroyed, and some pictures of the racing, and then maybe a little bit of the drag racing stuff. The interesting part was going back looking at how the garage has changed very little throughout the years of all the stuff that we were working on. Everything was right here in this garage. So this little adapter set will screw down onto the intake on the spread bore side of it. Got these little screws, and that's what will hold it all together down to the intake, and then there's, you know, the other part adapts to it. Thus the adapter side of it. Don't need those. And just like that. What's going on here? Yep. Okay. Phillips headed screws. Bad part about adapters, it's just another place for a vacuum leak, but outside of changing the intake completely, I'm going to put the square bore side up, and that's a studded deal. Just like the original one was. This is the kick down. This guy goes in here. Ooh. I gotta swap out this nipple here because it's not the same size as what was on the other one. I bet that'll prove to be a challenge. What's moving here? I've always said this truck absolutely hates my guts. And it proves itself every time. Whoa. Well, it's a good thing we had that problem. Now we can try and figure out why the adapter's not fitting on the carburetor on the intake. That one's loose too. What the hell? Like the screws are too long.
Oh, you think so?
Jake, stop with your face.
One that Jake burned off.
Yeah,
Have a fight for that, guys?
I do. Oh,
Ah, still here. Go to the bathroom. I'm sorry, you have to now. I don't. Oh, Jesus.
roaring across the finish line.
Stepped on a piece of wood. It's pretty.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we're just going to shorten all the screws up. How's that sound?
Shorten them shorter than that one you have.
So we ended up shortening all these screws up so that they'll bottom and hold the plate down tight. I've never ran into that. I had to take about 1/8 of an inch off every screw so that it doesn't bottom out in the bottom of the hole. So that was fun. All right, so that's on. We're gonna finish hooking up the carburetor, put a distributor cap on so Mrs. Landshark can start putting wires on. Then we're gonna put some shiny stuff on the alternator, mount the alternator. We'll tackle that power steering pump situation. Yeah, I needed to change the cap because the distributor in Mrs. L's truck got a locked out distributor plate. Alright, so let's move on over here. We are going to put on this alternator bracket. So this guy seems pretty straightforward. This one got a small hex-headed bolt goes in here. We're just going to have to find someplace else to ground the battery, because that used to ground right there where that...
Oh.
Which I don't think is going to... Maybe I can still stick it behind there. This little bolt's got like a little shoulder on it. This is kind of a nice setup, actually. I've seen guys make these with their own turnbuckles. So let's talk about this power steering pump holder thingamajobber. It's really got no instructions with it, but after looking at it, trying to use the normal holes down there that you use, we realized that these are set up to go here on the water pump and here on the power steering pump, and then these two brackets should hang off of this piece of the water pump. So depending on how you do your cobbling, sometimes this hole can be threaded on a water pump to put just one stud in the front of. So something to keep in mind if you ever put this magnesium junk on. Unfortunately ours isn't, because the back part of this bracket is threaded, so the stud will go through and thread into this, and that's what will stabilize it here. And then the up and the down adjustment will be once we get these mounted here, is what we're hoping. We don't know if it'll line up with the pulleys yet. So we're up and running here. Dead camera problems again. This debacle right here, made by D Motors or some company. Unbelievable. Demotor Performance. Demotor Performance needs to find some paper and print some instructions on how to put their junk on small block Chevys. Absolutely no instructions whatsoever. We've spent about 2.5 hours messing around with this to get it in there. We're really happy with it now that it's in there. This mount is by D Motors. This mount was by another company, the alternator mount, and that was real easy. Also no instructions, but that one you could see. This one actually looked like it was supposed to be mounted lower in the block, like some of the small blocks used to mount, when it actually went into the water pump. Alignment issues, had to do a lot of grinding to get this to adjust. We had to grind. So my power steering hose isn't the problem, but we ended up bending the power steering hose. Needless to say, you didn't get to follow the 2 hours of that because the battery went dead and we were so deep into it we just kept on going. We're going to tighten up the belt, drop the radiator in, tighten up the power steering, throw some fire at this and see what happens. So this has got a mount that goes into the head, mounts off the actual GM mounts for the alternator, and then this little turnbuckle mounts into the top of your water pump with this threaded hex head bolt, and then there's another one back here so so that Heim can move around. Gets it nice and tight. I like it. We had our ground strap mounted to the back of this bracket, and it caused just enough disruption that we didn't like it. So we took it out of there. We're just going to find someplace else to ground it at. I'm big on grounds. So let's ground it to the exhaust manifold. Now this project's really been fighting us for some reason. I don't really understand it, but it seemed like everything we messed with was just like this. See, everything's fighting us. Just took this out of here, should go right back in. We'll see. All right, there we go. So we still got to run the power wire from the alternator around to the alternator because it's on this side. Before it was on the other side. So we're going to extend all that wire. Got to tie our electric. There's an electric fan on the front here, a pusher fan. So like when we're in parade mode, we can flip that on if it gets a little warm. Other than that, everything's here. So we're going to throw some fire at this, and that'll be the end of this project. Put the hood on. Put it in storage. Well, actually, we're going to use it for Christmas on parade. What's your problem? All right, we're back at it. We went last night till we ran out of steam. For some reason, we had the starter wouldn't turn over. Absolutely wouldn't turn over. And the only thing I could think of is that day that Mortsky was here and touched this truck and probably ruined something. But turns out, good old Mr. Landshark had the start wire on the wrong post of the solenoid. So we swapped that around tonight. Ran the wire up to the alternator, so we got that. Got our fan hooked back up. We're going to see if she'll fire off now. Tickle hot sauce?
Yep.
Is that the phrase you use?
That's not what I would use. But.
Go ahead. Sparky. Okay. Well, as you can see, new cap and rotor on there. Apparently the module that's inside the distributor was unplugged is what we found when we finally got in there, but we were already swapping stuff, so we swapped in knowing good parts. So let's give her a try again. Starter's a little close, so that's all that is. A little low for your cam in yours, but needs a new throttle return spring. Well, there you have it. That swap's complete. Gonna shim that starter out a little bit. It's got to be what it is. That's either that or it's rubbing against the shield down there, just like the Tahoe. Why not? So another half hour, 45 minutes messing around to find out that that control module that's in there, right here, was actually unplugged on one end. So we just swapped in the stuff that was on the 350 for the 68. That was a lot of fun stuff to go through to just drive this down to our storage shed and put it away for the winter. But we're glad it's up and running. We'll knock out all the kinks. Thanks for following our page. We really appreciate it. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, really close to 1,000 subscribers. We appreciate everybody and what you guys are doing to help us, because this is a fun journey that we're taking. So never forget, drive your shit. We'll see ya. Make the belt squeaky.
Yep.